Welcome to another episode of Screenwriters Talk Screenwriting. This episode is all about dialogue. I recently had a client who asked me about dialogue and how to write better dialogue. So I came up with a list of my top 7 tips for writing dialogue. Let's get into it.
Top 7 tips for writing dialogue 7.
So number 7 is listen to conversations and study people as they speak. Go to a cafe and write at a cafe and listen to people as you're writing. For me, I'm in Buffalo. I go to a place called Spot Coffee, and Spot Coffee was voted the number 1 place for people watching by the local Buffalo magazine. There's so many different people from different backgrounds who go to the coffee shop, and I'll just often just eavesdrop on conversations. I'm not trying to be rude, but I'm just trying to get inspiration. And I hear how people talk, and sometimes it just as often inspires me for a character or line of dialogue. I think going to a coffee shop and writing in a coffee shop helps me so much. I get energy from it and I get inspiration from that.
6.
Number 6 is think about actors who could play your characters. These actors could be alive or dead. If I have a character who's an old man, I might think to myself, well, how would Walter Matthau or Jack Lemmon talk? They're both dead, but the way they talked was not how young people talk. You never hear Walter Matthau say the word lit. If I wanted the funny female character, I would be like, well, how does Lucille Ball talk? Or maybe Amy Poehler or Tina Fey, because there's certain words, there's certain rhythms. The way Jack Black says words, Jack Black uses a lot of words that aren't actual words, like skadoosh. That's not a word. But if I wanted the fun-loving party character like a Jack Black, I would think to myself, well, how would Jack Black say this? If you're looking for someone with a lot of sarcasm, I would always think to myself, how would Aubrey Plaza do this? How would Aubrey Plaza say this? And that helps a lot. So whatever characters you have, think about actors or celebrities in mind. Think about their personas and how they use words. Michael Markowitz, who wrote Horrible Bosses, talked about this in another Screenwriters Talk Screenwriting episode.
When I wrote the movie, you always write a movie with actors in mind. And I wrote it with Jennifer Aniston and Jason Bateman as the actors in mind for those roles, but they didn't know that. I guess I put it out there in the universe.
So always think about actors who could play your character roles. Even if they're not going to be the actors who you really want, it just still helps with dialogue.
5.
Sometimes you need filler to make it killer later. Sometimes you just got to write fluff to keep moving forward. You don't want to get stuck on, page 25 forever. You want to get to page 1. If you're writing a movie, you want to get to page 90. I tell my clients, don't aim for perfect on your first draft. Your first draft will never be perfect. I never send my first drafts of screenplays to anyone. I always have a first draft for myself. And then when I start to rewrite it and make it better, the second or third draft is when I start to share with my close friends, but I never send the first 3 drafts to production companies. Maybe the 4th draft, but it's after a lot of rewriting and a lot of punching up and a lot of table reads. You can always write filler to make it killer later. If you're writing dialogue, that's not good. It's on the nose. It's crap. You can fix it later. That's what rewrites are for. I went to a drunk history party recently, and we all had to give presentations on people, and I chose John Hughes. And John Hughes, he would write his first draft. I think it was in 3 weeks a lot of times. He would write a first draft in 3 weeks, but then he would write 20 to 25 drafts after that. And then he would get notes from John Candy if it was a movie John Candy was in. By the way, if you don't know who John Hughes is, he wrote Home Alone, National Lampoon's Vacation, 16 Candles, The Breakfast Club, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and so many more classic movies. But his first drafts were not the finished movies. I just watched the SNL documentary Beyond Saturday Night, and Gilda Radner, who was the first SNL cast member ever, said that her first drafts of her sketches were vomit passes, and then she would pick out the corn, and the corn is what she used for the next draft. I've heard Judd Apatow also use the term vomit pass, and I've actually read the first draft of The 40-Year-Old Virgin, and it was a vomit pass. It really wasn't that funny, and the characters were not fully drawn out yet. It wasn't even close to what you see in the movie. There's a lot of scenes in later drafts that were not at all in the first draft. And there's also a lot of improv in The 40-Year-Old Virgin, when Steve Carell yells, Kelly Clarkson, that's an improv line. I love that movie. I'm not trying to knock the first draft because that's what the thing is. First drafts are just first drafts. You're just getting them out there. So it's okay if you get stuck in dialogue for now. You're going to be able to fix it later. If you got to write filler now, you can make it killer later.
4.
This tip is do a table read. The 3rd episode of Screenwriters Talk Screenwriting is all about table reads. Table reads bring your characters to life with great actors. Here's a clip of an episode from my TV show, Grandma Knows Best, when Grandma uses a dating app to find her daughter, who's a single mother, a date.
Oh, the doorbell rings.
There he is, my daughter's new boy toy. Sophie, can you open it? Make him wait a few minutes like a gentleman.
Sophie opens the front door. She meets Alfonso Alonso, 49, tall, bearded, and has a foreign accent.
Hi, are you Jeannie? I know a lot of ladies don't use their actual pictures, but you're a lot younger than your picture.
No, Jeannie is my mom. Here, come in and take a seat.
Alfonso sits on the couch. Sophie yells up the stairs.
Louie, our new dad is here.
I didn't know I was going to jump into being a dad, but okay, if you guys really need a father.
Oh, thanks for the offer. But that was a joke.
Oh, okay. I was actually really looking forward to it.
Having actors bring your characters to life will help the dialogue so much. Actors will definitely inspire you to write better dialogue. For all your dialogue, you want to keep it kind of short and snappy. Nobody really likes to read paragraphs in screenplays. If you have a whole action block that's paragraphs, or you have a dialogue that's a paragraph, it gets boring. Unless it's a speech, that's really the only time you should have large chunks of dialogue. In Independence Day, the president at the end of the movie did a whole speech, and those were paragraphs, I'm sure, in the script, and that's fine because it was a speech. But in general, we like to have dialogue that's short and snappy. You know, one of my favorite Shakespeare quotes is, "Brevity is the soul of wit." Not only having short and snappy dialogue is good on the page, but it's also great for actors because they can remember, one or two lines. If they have like 7 lines they have to memorize and say, that's a lot more work for them. In general, try to keep dialogue short and snappy. For me, a lot of times I'll overwrite dialogue in a first draft of a script. But when I'm writing the second draft, before I show it to people, I will find ways to trim it and cut complete sentences out to make the dialogue short and snappy.
2.
Wherever the script takes place, research how people talk, either via YouTube or maybe watch movies based on that location or TV shows based on that location, because every location, I think, people talk differently. The way people talk in LA is not how people talk in Boston. The way people talk in Boston, I'm doing a terrible Boston accent, but you get the point. In Canada, I live close to Toronto and no one really uses the A in Toronto, but if you go to Vancouver, you go to Montreal, you hear A, a lot more after every sentence. They'll welcome to Canada, eh? Again, I'm terrible with accents, so forgive me. In Montreal, for example, I went to Montreal and I noticed people talking French and English. That's very confusing because I don't know French. I wrote a TV show called Grandma Knows Best. It's one of my favorite things I've ever written. And in Grandma Knows Best, it took place in West Virginia. I've never been to West Virginia, so I went on YouTube and I looked up how do people talk in West Virginia? And I found all these videos and it helped me so much. And Grandma Knows Best, it's a TV show about a badass grandma who gets out of prison after 10 years and she meets her grandkids for the first time. And her daughter never wanted her to meet the grandkids, but she just knocks on the door and there she is. And it took place in West Virginia.
It's nothing. Nancy just wanted me to try out this app.
Oh, you mean West Virginia?
I'm sorry, how do you know about West Virginia?
My friend Jasper saw you on there. He swiped right on you, but you swiped left on him.
But I'd never been to West Virginia, and I'm not about to drive all the way to West Virginia because that would cost way too much money and gas and time. So what I did is I YouTubed how do people talk in West Virginia, or West Virginia lingo. I can't remember exactly what I YouTubed, but I found this video of Jennifer Gardner. I found out that she grew up in West Virginia, and I think it was Vanity Magazine or something like that. They made a video of like West Virginia lingo. And Jennifer Gardner she had like index cards with words on them and she read the word and then she translated what this word meant. And I learned all these little cool details and all these little things that I incorporated in my script. So like for one of them, I remember was Tudor's Biscuit World. She explained what Tudor's Biscuit World was, and I thought this was the greatest thing. It's pretty much, it's a fast food chain for biscuits and stuff. But I took that, I'm like, you know what, I'm going to make that a location in my script. Tudor's Biscuit World is too good not to have in my TV show that takes place in West Virginia. So I added all that dialogue that Jennifer Garner had. I also found like a video of this like 12-year-old kid just walking around West Virginia. But yeah, YouTube is such a great resource. Whatever location that takes place in your script, I would look up how those people talk. Number 1 is go deeper into your characters. If you don't know how your characters talk, think about their history. Write it out. Think about where they grew up, what language they speak, how their personalities influence their dialogue. Really paint the picture of your characters, and writing dialogue will get easier. If you need help with this, you can find a character questionnaire on my website at jordanandmiola.com/character. But if you're stuck on dialogue, really go more into your characters. Think about who they hang out with on a Saturday night. What's their education? Were they a good student or were they a bad student? Did they not graduate the 8th grade? Think about their relationships with their family. Who taught them how to speak? If you can visualize the character in your head, you'll be able to make them talk more fluently. Once you really know the characters, dialogue gets a lot easier. But in the meantime, you figure it out as you write. Sometimes great dialogue is in between 2 lines of not great dialogue. But right now, just write it, try, and then rewrite it.
I am not a left, and I take plenty of offense to being called a left. I am Alfonso Alonso. I'm more than a direction.
Sorry, almost future dad. Thanks for trying.
Goodbye forever, almost future daughter. My life is so sad.